On a stormy night in the Qian mansion, Qian Yunsheng cries out to her parents about not wanting to marry Prince Yi. She didn't even like him. The House of Grand Counselor had been on bad terms with Prince Yi for a long time. Yusheng's mother told her husband, Qian Oshin, that their daughter's life would be ruined if the marriage proceeded. Oshin understood, but explained that the marriage was arranged by the emperor, so they couldn't disobey. But Yusheng would rather die than get married to Prince Yi. Her mother comforted her, promising to never let her suffer as long as she was here. Oshin then asked Yusheng to do this for her parents, because if they disobeyed, the entire House of Grand Counselor might be executed. He wanted his daughter to do this for them, and they'd ask for nothing more ever again. Yunsheng begged her family desperately, saying if she weren't here, who would look after her father and love him like she did? Her mother then recalled that Yunsheng wasn't their only daughter, referring to their girl on Spirit Cloud Mountain. Oshin couldn't go ahead with lying to the emperor, for he feared the entire clan would pay the price. However, his wife explained that it wouldn't be a lie, since the girl was their eldest daughter. She suggested swapping Yunxi's and Yunsheng's identities, believing no one would be able to tell them apart. Oshin saw sense in his wife's suggestion, and considered how long it would work in the long term. Recalling she wasn't the only daughter, Yunsheng thought of her older sister, the half-wit their family disowned. Later, Chen Yunxi would take her sister's place and be escorted in a royal carriage to the prince's mansion. She lifted her veil and tried peeking out the window, but her attendant, Su Rong, warned her it was improper at this time. Yunxi would be placed in a room where she waited to meet Prince Yi. She complained about not having enough time to rest, and asked the servants outside what else she had to do. The male one playfully told her not to rush her wifely duties. The servants began gossiping about how the other concubines spoke of Prince Yi's masterful swordplay. His nickname was the Night Thruster. When Yunxi realized what they were talking about, she became flustered and wondered what they'd be doing when they met. While the servants spoke with the chef outside, she mistook him for the prince and quickly hid under the table. Yunxi tried peeking out, but at that moment, the prince entered the room. He felt Yunxi's father was trying to tie him down with a political union, and saw Yunxi as nothing more than a pathetic pawn. He made it clear that only Nan Qingwan was fit to be his princess. As he left, he ordered that Yunxi be moved to the Serenity Pavilion. Yunxi didn't doubt the prince's words. She saw herself as the misfortune of her parents made flesh. But she was extremely satisfied, even dancing around, seeing that she no longer had to please the prince. She was free, having no idea it was said the Serenity Pavilion was haunted. Arriving there, she was shocked to find the place completely run down. She asked Surong to tell the prince to find her somewhere else to stay, only deterred to see that her attendant had run away. Yunxi wouldn't be beaten so easily though. Having grown up on Spirit Cloud Mountain like a wild animal, and with her instinct to survive, she was determined to clean up the place in no time. But she soon realized she couldn't do this by herself. She would summon her spirit servant, Mochi. Oh wait, you guys ever seen Casper the Friendly Ghost? Is this like the Chinese Temu version? He complained about being locked up for so long and threatened to punish her. However, she explained the situation to him. He thought she was living the high life and that coming to the bustling capital from the mountains would improve things. But it seems getting married to a prince barely changed anything. Yunxi tried persuading Mochi to help her clean. She cuddled his face, and he couldn't resist her cute eyes. He began glowing brightly, using his magic to put everything in the room to order. Afterwards, they were both exhausted. Being so busy, Yunxi recalled she hadn't eaten yet. With her ninja-like getup, she leapt through the rooftops to get to the kitchen, which she eyed earlier. Mochi was unable to keep up and realized something nearby was draining his strength. Yunxi would then encounter Prince Ye Yumin, who pretended to be one of the palace guards. As they fought, Yuming's top came undone, exposing his abs. And seeing his loose clothes, she wondered if he was really a guard or if he was having an affair. He would eventually lock down her joints, and with Mochi being nowhere close by, she had no choice but to use a smoke bomb to escape, with the smoke making him feel weak. Yuming wondered if this was the work of her father. Yunxi's master had told her life was not decided by fate. One could change their fate through their own efforts. As such, she didn't believe in fate, but only in herself, and no one was going to tell her what to do. The following day, Yunxi complained that nothing good happened to her ever since she married the prince in her sister's place. Still upset at Mochi for abandoning her, she punched him into a tree and would only consider forgiving him if he pushed her on the swing. A guy walking by overheard her laughter and wondered who was disturbing the peace of the palace. He went to find out, planning to seize and discipline them. As he came to Yunxi, she was stunned. She couldn't believe such a handsome man existed. She invited him to swing with her, but Mochi told her not to get love-struck and complained that he couldn't swing both of them. She would try to run away then, but he'd stop her, asking if they could maybe be friends. Then introducing himself as Yu Zimo. He'd ask for her name, but Mochi covered her mouth, and Zimo wondered why she wasn't answering, since he couldn't see her spirit companion. She then answered she was a new handmaiden, and no one of importance to note. She'd try leaving again, but Zimo was persistent, letting her know it was impolite not to give her name. He still wanted her name, so that way they could meet again one day. Suddenly, she flipped him over while saying her name was Grandma. He would join his brother Yu Ming in the bath, telling him about the new handmaiden who threw him, and he was gushing while telling the story. He wanted her so badly, but didn't know her name. So, Yu Ming offered to give him all his newly hired maidens. When Zemo brought up his brother's marriage, Yu Ming became furious because he didn't want to talk about it. The prince then asked him about a matter he told him to investigate, and Zemo replied that Ocean could no longer contain his patience. Once they had enough evidence, the prince would make the whole Qian clan pay with their blood. Meanwhile, Yunchi reciting a sorrowful poem when she heard a womanly voice responding to her. She wondered if there was someone as sorrowful as her in the palace, and she began tracing the voice, shocked to find it was a female horse. A long time ago, the prince would eagerly ride the horse all day long, but now it didn't see him from 1 month to the next. Understanding the horse's plight, Yunchi comforted her, asking for her name, but the horse was too embarrassed to reveal that it was Succubus. Yunchi then claimed its name didn't matter, and proceeded to name it Crystal, Butterfly, Q, Purple, Dream, Elegant Snow, or Z-Way for short, which I guess translates to Juliet. But Google thinks it's something else. I don't know, I'm not Chinese. But it makes sense in the context that Yunchi continues on with her poem and refers to herself as Romeo, so I'm going to go with that. As Yunchi got on top to ride Juliet, Xiaopo was shocked to see her on top of the horse. Juliet was a loyal horse who only ever let the prince ride her, and she wasn't easy to please. He stopped Yunchi and claimed Juliet was his horse, and Yunchi asked him to prove it. But Juliet would throw him off as he tried to get on top. Then she ran away giggling, saying she wouldn't let Po ride her if he could catch her. Po was completely embarrassed and started crying, but Yunchi kindly offered to teach him how to tame Juliet. Getting back to her room, Yunchi was vividly exhausted and hungry. She'd beg Mochi to bring her food, but he refused. Suddenly, the lights went off, and a spirit appeared, screaming at them. Unfazed, Yunchi and Mochi screamed back. Then, she used a punch to finish it off. In its weakened state, the ghost introduced himself as Sesame, a lonely, low-power level ghost, and it begged for her forgiveness. Yunchi would forgive Sesame on the condition that he served them and tend to all their needs. He didn't have much of a choice, but agreed. For the first order of servitude, Sesame served them a wonderful meal. In a dream, we see Yunchi demanding to take her Aunt Shu and Che-er with her to the prince's mansion. However, her mother refuses, telling Ocean it could ruin their plan, and that the maids had already signed a life contract with them. The scene then switches to Aunt Shu lying ill in bed, and Che-er struggling to wash clothes in a snowstorm. Waking from this nightmare, Yunchi explained what happened to the spirits, and after consoling her, Mochi proposed she go home to check on the maids. Yunchi agreed, but she would need to disguise herself. While walking through the bustling streets, Yunchi is attracted to a vendor selling pots, which could be used for cooking in self-defense. Mochi thought it was stupid to use a pan for self-defense, but Yunchi ended up buying the biggest one. She also bought a so-called anti-theft item and a chicken said to be able to catch thieves in 3 seconds. Mochi was infuriated with her for wasting so much money. Afterwards, they came across a crowd captivated by Nan Qingwan's beauty. They even claimed her face could launch 1,000 ships, whatever that means, and whoever got married to her would be the luckiest in the world. Even Yunchi wanted to marry her. Qingwan's attendant, Xin Ha. Holy dude, I can't pronounce these Chinese names. Anyways, the attendant interrupted the crowd, asking them to stop looking at her mistress. However, Qingwan scolded her for speaking like that. A stranger would then bump into her, stealing her purse in the process. When Xinha tried to chase him down, Yunchi stepped in to assist him. She fed the thief catching chicken she bought and launched it at the culprit. And after being knocked down, the thief fled, so Yunchi quickly gave chase. She ended up at a forked road, unsure of where to go. Then, she used the special anti-theft box she got, which told her to run away. Meanwhile, Yu Ming and his brother were talking about Ocean. He saw Ocean as a sly fox who was working with evil people, but now, with his arranged marriage, he had Yunchi as a hostage. They also believed Ocean had a hand in General Nan's death. General Nan was a man who treated Yu Ming like family, and Yu Ming swore to make Ocean pay in blood. Qingwan was the eldest daughter of the late General Nan, a goddess to the capital's people, good-natured, hugely popular, and the focus of daily gossip. That's why the thief who stole her purse believed he'd make a fortune selling her items. At that moment, Yunqi's pan came flying straight at him, but he caught it and countered by throwing it back. And Yunqi struck back, kicking the pan into his head, finally catching the thief. After he returned the purse, she still proceeded to beat up his face a little more. The thief then whipped out a shirt, asking her to spare his life. While she was distracted, he used this chance to throw a dagger at her. But Sesame would shield her with his body, and she was angry at him for hurting her friend. But the thief couldn't see the ghost, of course. She rushed towards him, unleashing her smoke bomb, and upon seeing the smoke, Yuming jumped out of his boat and confronted Yunqi. However, she mistook him for the thief's accomplice and tried slamming him on the ground. But Yuming would easily recover. He asked her where she got the smoke bomb from, and Yunqi replied by punching his face. Finally fed up, he grabbed her by the neck and pinned her to the ground for attacking the face of a prince. Yuming asked if she was the assassin who attacked him 2 nights ago, and with her refusing to answer, he threatened to break her neck. But Qingwan would stop him, explaining that Yunqi was helping her catch the thief. Qingwan let him know that on her way to meet him, a pickpocket stole from her. She then thanked Zemo for the medicine he gave earlier, and he offered to help with anything, being considerate of how difficult it had been for her and her mother since her father's death. Yuming asked her why she wanted him to come along to Tanyin Temple to pray, which she replied that her mother had been plagued with nightmares and had no appetite. The doctors had been of no help, so Qingwan was hoping that praying at the temple would do something. Yuming attributed this to all being because of her husband's death, and he promised to dice up Ocean in order for General Nan to rest peacefully. While they were talking, Yunqi used the chance to slip away. When she was finally safe, she scolded Mochi for always feeling weak whenever she needed his help. But Sesame tried explaining it was true, as he had also felt his energy drain away at the Yi princely palace. Yunqi wondered why bad things happened every time that idiot Prince Yi was around. Back in town, Yuming revealed the psychedelic smoke Yunqi used was also used by the Western tribe. He ordered the city to be locked down until they found Yunqi, but Zemo reminded him that he promised not to act rashly and alert the enemy. Since there was no evidence pointing that she had attacked the prince, Zemo advised his brother not to be reckless. Yuming would overlook it this time, but vowed that those who hurt Qingwan wouldn't escape his wrath. Later, Sesame suggested they go to the best restaurant, known as the Drunk Fairy. Just then, Mr. Zhang was sent flying out, nearly crushing Yunqi. Royan stepped out, telling him that he had neither the looks nor the money for the restaurant, and after sending him off, she mistook Yunqi for a young, handsome man and invited her inside. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, because here at My Shoujo Weekly, I've got plenty of stories to share with you in the shoujo genre. Looking for more to watch? Check out my completed series playlist featuring all the shows I've covered featuring 1 or more finished seasons. So come on, fill your days with ease, watch my videos, please. In the restaurant, Yunqi was served the special Lu-style chicken combo on the house. Royan also started massaging her and offered to help relieve her anxiety and stress. But Yunqi had no idea what she really meant. Then, Royan was called to attend to a troublesome client. One of the clerks welcomed this supposed client, and the client's servant demanded they bring the big combo. The clerk stated that all the private rooms were occupied. Then he started offering different deals, but the servant got angry and kicked him into the table. That's when Royan would come in to calm them down and told someone else to prepare a different room. Jun Yi-ching then asked Royan if she missed him, but she didn't look happy one bit seeing him. As they got a table, he grabbed her and began reciting a poem, asking her to come to the palace with him, but she immediately refused, slapping him away. Still, Yi-ching professed his love and refused to let her go. After enjoying her meal, Yunqi went to look for Royan, then overheard her struggling and screaming for Yi-ching to let her go. Yunqi stormed in, demanding Yi-ching unhand Royan. Oblivious to the situation, Yunqi told him that she still wanted to experience the Royan deep tissue massage. Yi-ching became furious at her for trying to steal his love. He jumped over the table and dived for Yunqi, but she dodged and kept evading all his attacks. Then, she slapped him onto the table, knocking him out in the process. Getting worried, Royan told Yunqi not to injure him. Suddenly, a dagger came flying between them. Then, Yi-ching's servant emerged from the shadows, threatened to execute whoever harmed his lord. But Yunqi still threatened to beat him up every time she saw him. She and the servant would get into a fight, and after seeing how skilled he was, she decided to lure him outside by faking an attack and running out. As she jumped off the second floor, the servant threw 2 daggers at her, one of which cut through her hair clip, revealing her long hair. As Yuming and the others entered the restaurant, he caught sight of the falling Yunxi. He would leap into the air, catching her in his arms, and Yunxi was flush, seeing how handsome he looked. Zemo was finally happy to see Yunxi again, reminding her that he was the man she threw over her shoulder back at the palace. He asked her to be his princess, but Yuming would interrupt, trying to take her with him. Yunxi backed away from the two of them, only to bump into Zemo, then elbowed him. She was surprised to find out he was a prince too. Still, Yuming wanted to take Yunxi because he believed she was connected to the assassin. Po told them to stop fighting over a woman, reminding the prince they had come here to cheer up Qingwan. They would be interrupted by Mr. Zhang and a mob coming to wreck the place. And seeing them, Yuming immediately released his frightening magical powers, which scared them away. Thereafter, the prince left as well. Being taken to the Zemo palace, Yunxi soaked in a bath while thinking of her encounter with the 3 princes. Realizing she could not stay here for long, she decided to look for a way out. While she was getting dressed up, Prince Zemo entered the room and dismissed the handmaidens. Yunxi thanked him for his help, and on her way out, he stopped her, letting her know he had fallen in love with her at first sight. He asked her to become his princess once more, but she refused. Zemo would be interrupted by one of his servants, telling him that Eunuch Ji was here, and after he left, Yunxi tried escaping through the window, but was suddenly sprayed with a powder that knocked her out. Meanwhile, Yuming found out that Yunxi wasn't a maid, but rather the princess of the Serenity Pavilion. He then quickly left for the Yu princely palace. Zemo was later served grilled gluten, which his sister, Princess Lan Shuang, made for him. He didn't seem very interested because it looked pretty gross. So he gave it to his servant and quickly ran off, letting her know that no matter who called, he was sick for the rest of the day. When he returned to meet Yunxi, he was shocked, finding no sign of her. What only remained was a jade pendant. Recalling his previous encounters with Yunxi, Yuming was convinced that she had come here to ruin him, perhaps even being a spy for her father. But he felt conflicted, thinking about the face she made when he caught her falling. He and Zemo bumped into each other, and the two accused each other of hiding Yunxi's whereabouts. When Zemo brought out the pendant he found, Yuming showed that he still had his, and since there were only 2 pendants of this kind in existence, it had to belong to the other prince. Elsewhere, Yunxi woke up and found herself tied to a bed. As she struggled, Yi Qing approached her. He kidnapped her because after seeing the other princess fight over her, he just wanted to join in. When he was younger, he lived a carefree, unrestrained life, surrounded by beauties. He was a wild stallion, enjoying the prosperity he felt he deserved. But Yuming set him up to be the crown prince, leaving him with less money, more work, and no time away. Full of frustration, Yi Qing decided he would keep Yunxi in his palace just to watch Yuming suffer without her. He offered to give her a pair of priceless blood jade earrings if she agreed to stay. But upon seeing the earrings, she recalled that these were the same ones her mother had given to Aunt Shui, and they were the only pair in the world. Yunxi asked the prince where he got them, and he said they were gifts given to him by Ocean. He claimed he was good friends with her father, and was also well liked in the imperial court. However, Yi Qing had also presented these same earrings to his wife, but she refused them because they were from Ocean. Though he was the crown prince, no one really listened to him, so if he had refused the gift, Ocean would have taken offense. Yunxi would then reveal herself as her sister Yunsheng, undoing her binds and punching Yi Qing. The prince then took off his robe, attempting to force himself on her. That's when his wife showed up and stopped him. While dragging him away, a servant rushed in, informing them that the other 2 princes had barged into the palace. Yuming and Zemo demanded Yi Qing bring out Yunxi. The crown prince played dumb, but Zemo simply tossed his pendant back to him, and Yuming showed he still had his. Zemo thought only Yi Qing would abduct a girl so ineptly to stoke distrust between him and Yuming. And despite Yi Qing really trying to play dumb, saying, "Heaven and earth, bear witness to my love for my wife," Yi Qing's wife would deny him, letting the princess know that Yunxi was inside. When they got in the room, Yunxi was gone. Yi Qing tried to step away, but Yuming held him back. At that point, the crown prince realized Yunxi was truly Yuming's wife. Yuming strangled his throat, threatening to kill him, but Yi Qing gladly welcomed it, so long as Yuming took back the title of crown prince. He then let go of Yi Qing after his wife vouched for him. At the Serenity Pavilion, Yunxi packed her things, getting ready to leave. She saw no reason to remain a princess, since her father didn't keep his word to take care of Aunt Shui. She planned to find her aunt and leave this place forever. The leader of the Western tribe, Lord Beitong, receiving word that Ocean was holding a feast, and he would agree to attend in order to maintain good relations between their countries. Yunxi wondered why there were so many guards at the house of Grand Counselor. Mochi told her they were holding a feast today, so she asked him to go check it out. They'd start arguing about the way they abandoned each other during crucial times. Since the House of Grand Counselor was her home, Sesame asked why she couldn't just walk in. However, Yunxi was here without permission. She'd made a deal with her father that if she got married in her sister's stead, for Shui's sake, she bit her tongue and agreed to all her father's unreasonable requests. But he didn't keep his word, so Yunxi decided she'd take on Shui and leave. Sesame then pointed her to a hole in the wall, which they could use to sneak in. After struggling to get through the hole, Mochi teased Yunxi for being fat, and she didn't take that too kindly. Someone would hear them arguing, and Sesame offered to lure the person away, but Yunxi recognized the voice. Peeking through the bushes, she saw it was Chair, who nearly hit her as she jumped out. But Yunxi held the stick back as she revealed herself. Chair would weep after hearing how much the princess had suffered. When Yunxi asked about Aunt Shui, Chair answered she didn't know where she was. According to her, the mistress had kicked Aunt Shui out for having malaria. On top of that, she took all of Aunt Shui's belongings. Yunxi's father never got involved, since the mistress was in charge of all household matters. After Yunxi left, her sister made life very difficult for the maids. But Chair told her she wouldn't be able to see him because he'd be meeting with Bei Tong Li of the Western tribe. Her father had been cozying up to him lately, so something was definitely going on. Auntie Dang barged in on the door, calling for Chair. So Yunxi quickly hid as the maid was dragged off by her. Afterwards, she confronted the guards, letting them know she wanted to see her father. But the only daughter they knew was Yunsheng, so they assumed she was an imposter. The guards were ordered to lock her up, but when they turned around, she was gone. Since Yunxi only lived here a short time, most people didn't recognize her. They also didn't like her. Only Chair and Aunt Shui were kind to her. At the age of 7, her father sent her to Spirit Cloud Mountain, and she hadn't been back since then. Yunxi panicked, wondering how she could get into the entrance hall now. Upon seeing the female servants who'd serve at the feast, she got an idea. Yunxi would kidnap one of them, stealing their outfit to go in their place. She asked her spirits to watch the girl, while she snuck in with the other servants. One of the girls noticed she was new here and advised Yunxi to follow her lead if she was unsure of what to do. When the dances were done, Yunxi entered the room, and upon seeing her father, she tried thinking of ways to get him to notice her. She and Bei Tong's eyes would meet while she served him a drink. She noticed he kept staring and wondered why. One of the servants suddenly tripped, so Yunxi quickly stepped in to help her, but the maid spilled soup on the cuisine, which was supposed to be a symbol of peace. Ocean demanded she be taken away and flogged 80 times. However, Yunxi stepped in, telling him it would be inappropriate in front of their honored guests. She thought as long as her father recognized her, things would resolve peacefully. But he then demanded she be taken away as well, leaving her stunned. Yunsheng then walked in, calming their father down. Seeing her, Yunxi was filled with rage, but controlled herself. Yunsheng would explain she didn't think the meal was ruined. Instead, she felt the Central Plains and Western tribe were in perfect harmony, and the soup mixing them together signified an even closer relationship than before. But when she saw Bei Tong staring at one of the maids, her expression grew bitter. Ocean then formally introduced Bei Tong to his daughter, and Yunsheng apologized for being late. But Bei Tong wasn't bothered. His eyes were still fixed on Yunxi. He then asked Ocean to be kinder with his punishment to the maids. And so, instead of the floggings, Ocean agreed to dock only 1 month's pay from them. Later, Yunxi assumed her father didn't recognize her because her makeup skills were too good. Not only did she have makeup skills, but she also boasted about having amazing luck. She wanted her ghosts to guess which nice person saved her today. Suddenly, Bei Tong showed up beside her, asking if the nice person she referred to was him. Yunxi would push him away as he tried to touch her face. Then, she claimed the person she was speaking about was Yunsheng. He would ask for her name, but she brushed him off and walked away. He grabbed her hand, and seeing this, Sesame rushed to attack. Though his bites only made Bei Tong itchy, Mochi then used his powers to throw food at Bei Tong, but he'd quickly step in the way to protect Yunxi. He assumed Yunxi used telekinesis, but he never expected Yunxi to slap him and walk away. Meanwhile, Yuming received word that Yunxi was now in the house of the Grand Counselor. This made him certain she was a spy sent by Ocean, and he set off to go see them. Yunxi was upset because nothing was going smoothly today. Meanwhile, her spirits were feeling very weak and were suddenly blocked by an anti-spirit barrier. She'd see her father and run after him to ask where Aunt Shui was. But on the way, she bumped into her sister Yunsheng. She tried to call it even since they both fell down. Then, the other servant told Yunsheng that she was the same maid at the feast, whom Bei Tong had been staring at. Yunsheng immediately accused her of seducing Bei Tong and asked her to kneel. Yunxi reprimanded her for her rudeness, asking if she wasn't going to greet her elder sister. She tried to remind Yunsheng who she was, saying she was Princess Yi. However, Yunsheng smirked, calling her sister an insolent slave. before asking the guards to capture her. In her room, Yunsheng demanded that Yunshi bow to her. Yunshi would never though, reminding her that she was the older sister. But Yunsheng only saw her as a bastard child raised in the mountains. She claimed Yunshi would have never come to the capital if not for her. Yunshi then brought up that she was Princess Yi, so it was only right for Yunsheng to kneel before her. However, Yunsheng accused her of flirting with Bei Tong, stating that courting the eye of another man was infidelity, and if Prince Yi found out, Yunshi would stop being a princess. As their parents entered the room, Yunsheng ran to her mother, crying and claiming that her reputation was about to be ruined. The parents couldn't believe Yunshi had come back. Yunshi explained that she was here to see Aunt Shui and Che-er, but Ocean reprimanded her for acting improperly. She would only go back on 2 conditions though. Firstly, she wanted to take Che-er with her, and secondly, her father must promise to find Aunt Shui, bring her back, and treat her illness. She asked why Aunt Shui was kicked out of the house of the Grand Counselor, and why her precious blood jade earrings were given to the Crown Prince as a gift. Ocean's wife explained she didn't have a choice because Aunt Shui was gravely ill. Yunsheng also claimed that no one was bullying her, but Yunshi called out her lies. She knew her mother had overworked Aunt Shui, which led to her sickness. The mother faked tears, reminding her that Yunsheng let her become Princess Yi and leave Spirit Cloud Mountain. But Yunshi doubted it was really for her sake, considering she'd been called a jinx since an early age. She offered to return the princess title to her sister, but Ocean admonished her for such an outrageous offer. Yunsheng told Yunshi she was just like her mother. She claimed that in the past, Yunshi's real mother hated her mother, so she used witchcraft to try to hurt people. Yunsheng then told Yunshi she was way worse than her mother, causing Yunshi to hit her out of anger. She didn't mind being insulted, but wouldn't stand any insults at her mother. Ocean told her to apologize, but Yunshi responded by asking who framed her mother all those years ago. She believed her father had been distorting the truth. This made him angry. So angry, Ocean ordered the guards to take her away and flog her 30 times. He gave her one more chance to apologize, but she refused. And with Yunshi being a princess now, the guards were nervous about flogging her. But Ocean claimed the prince couldn't stop him from disciplining his daughter. Just as the guards were about to hit her, Prince Yuming showed up, ordering them to stop. He let them know he had simply come to take his princess back home. While Yunshi avoided his gaze, Yunsheng was captivated by Prince Yi's appearance. She's heard many tales of his looks, along with his demeanor being cold as ice, and regretted giving up such a handsome man to her sister. Ocean asked his daughter to apologize quickly, but the prince wasn't bothered and just wanted to leave immediately. Yunshi used the chance to tell Yuming about how she's usually lonely at the palace, so she wanted the maid she grew up with to accompany her back, and promised not to run away again. She then gave her father 10 days to find Aunt Shui, threatening to say something stupid if he didn't. And he ended up bending over to her request. Before leaving, Yuming questioned Ocean about the guest whom he held a feast for, and Ocean nervously told him he was just a friend. While unbeknownst to them, Bei Tong was spying from the roof. On the carriage ride back, Yunshi was giggling to herself, thinking of how she'd get to play around with Che-er again. The prince then gave her a napkin to wipe her face, and she made it clear that she didn't love him in the slightest, but still managed a bashful thank you to him for the day, to him for helping her. Back at the Yi Princely Palace, Beauty Chu came to see Yuming, but a guard would stop her, stating that the prince ordered him not to allow anyone to see him today. Even though Chu was Yuming's favorite concubine, the guard couldn't go against his orders. As the prince was leaving, she ran after him, begging to be taken along, but he told her that he had urgent business and left. In the past, the prince only loved her, but she was being treated so differently now. At night, one of the maids mistakenly hurt Beauty Chu while combing her hair. Out of frustration, Chu ordered all the servants to get out. Then, the older concubines entered her room, suspecting she was upset because the prince had found a new favorite. They told her that Yuming had brought back 2 girls the other day, and one of them was Princess Yi. Hearing this, Chu's heart ached. Her sisters assumed Yunshi had used witchcraft to attract the prince's gaze. Unlike the others, Chu was brought here by the prince himself, and he loved her from the moment she set foot in the palace. She was orphaned and relied on Yuming for food and shelter. If Chu fell out of favor with him, she had no one else. The following day, she found Yunshi and Che-er playing in the garden. Yunshi told her maid that she'd take them to Spirit Cloud Mountain once her father found Aunt Shui. There, her master would definitely be able to cure Aunt Shui's illness. While they were playing with the water, Chu tried sneaking up on them, but Yunshi ended up accidentally throwing water on her face. Enraged, Chu suddenly kicked down Che-er, who tried to apologize to her. Yunshi demanded to know who she was, and why she had kicked her maid. One of Chu's maids then introduced her as the most beloved concubine in the palace, and so Yunchi would apologize and turn to leave with Chaeer. But Chu stopped her, stating that a maid wearing a flower hairpin was a transgression of the rules. Then she ordered one of her maids to slap Chaeer. Yunchi stood to defend her maid, reminding them that she was a princess and Chu was only a concubine, so they should be kneeling to her. But Chu laughed at her, saying princess was nothing but a title. She tried to fight, but Chaeer held her back, so she asked for help from her spirits. She then told Chu it was fine to carry out her punishment, but when the maid started beating up Chaeer, she seemed completely unharmed, while it was Chu who received all the damage instead. She accused Yunchi of using witchcraft, but the princess would take her leave since the punishment was done. However, Chu's servants would block her path. As Yuming and Po showed up, Chu explained the situation to the prince and begged him to get justice for her. Since Chaeer had broken rules of the palace by having a flower hairpin in her hair, he demanded her be tied up and slapped 30 times. But Yunchi refused, claiming this was an unprovoked assault. The prince didn't take lightly to being defied, threatening Chaeer wouldn't see tomorrow if he wanted her dead. So, Chu's servant then tapped the maid's cheek, making sure that nothing happened to her Lady Chu. She then proceeded to slap Chaeer properly. Immediately, Yunchi stood in for her, saying that it was all her fault and that she should be the one to be punished. Po then asked Chu to drop the matter, since she was so generous and dignified, even though she was still looking forward to the prince punishing the princess. She gave in and told Yuming she'd be fine with whatever he chose to do, and so he dropped the whole thing. Yunchi proceeded to leave once more, but the prince stopped her because he hadn't permitted her to leave, and then ordered her to be locked up in the firewood storehouse for 3 days to reflect on her actions. Chu also ordered her maids to make sure that no one would bring her food within that time. In the storehouse, Yunchi swore to get revenge for her maid, but Chaeer asked her not to enrage the prince for her sake, since he was the only one she could rely on in the palace. As the spirits brought them food, Mochi told Yunchi that he was sure it was Yuming limiting his powers. He asked her to get close to the prince to see if he had a gold ring inlaid with jade and a dragon pattern engraved on the inside. Yunchi didn't want to get close to Yuming, but would agree to do it since the spirits brought her food. Meanwhile, Chu made Chuzhou slap herself as punishment for failing to slap Chaeer earlier. She felt the princess thought of herself too highly and was determined to expose her witchcraft so that Yuming would divorce her. She then asked Chuzhou to go to the Taoist temple tomorrow and invite all the most famous Taoists on her behalf. On Spirit Cloud Mountain, Yunchi's master gifted her a crown of flowers made from fantasy ghost orchids to celebrate her coming of age. She was woken up from that dream by some maids who entered the storehouse, asking her to come with them. In her room, they do her makeup and style her hair because they were given orders. And after she was dressed up, a carriage was waiting for her. She asked where she was being taken to, but didn't get an answer. Entering the carriage, she was shocked to see Prince Yuming. She tried to run away, but he'd grab her by the waist, pulling her close and setting her down on his lap. She went flush. When she asked to be put down, he told her this behavior was normal between husband and wife. When they arrived, Yunchi was reluctant to get down from the carriage. So, the prince lifted her, and although she knew he was a tomcat, she still kind of enjoyed his attention. Meanwhile, Zimo, Po, and Long Shuang were having tea outside as they waited for their brother to arrive. Long Shuang was looking forward to seeing Yuming's princess. Hearing this, Zemo became upset because his brother had promised to give her to him. Seeing the way Zemo acted, Long Shuang was even more eager to see what the princess was like. As the prince arrived, she immediately ran to her brother, attaching herself to his arm. She told him that this was her new princess palace, and so far she liked it. He told her not to care about what others said. Po explained to Yunchi that this was their little sister, whom Yuming spoiled a lot. When they got to the tea table, Lan Shuang noticed there was one chair short and tried to make Yunchi feel left out, saying it was usually the 4 siblings who had tea together. However, the princess wasn't bothered and simply asked for another chair to be brought. Afterwards, Lan Shuang rudely asked Yunchi if she was Prince Yi's favorite concubine, but Yunchi felt the favorite definitely wouldn't be put in a storehouse. Po told her that Yunchi was Princess Yi, but Lan Shuang already knew that while pretending she didn't. Yunchi, again, still wasn't bothered by her words. A guard then informed Lan Shuang that the hall was ready and the banquet would start on time. Confused, Yunqi asked if today was special, to which Zemo told her it was Lan Shuang's birthday and her coming-of-age ceremony. Yunqi then asked for the toilet, and Lan Shuang pointed her in the direction. The prince's little sister couldn't believe Yunqi would use such a vulgar word like toilet. But Po told her that Yunqi was unique, like the heroine of a story. He also mentioned how she had tamed the horse Juliet, who was known to be loyal only to Yu Ming. Even though Lan Shuang obviously disliked her, Yunqi still wanted to give her a gift to celebrate her coming of age. While trying to pick flowers, she came across a flower fairy in the garden. The fairy was shocked that Yunqi could see her and asked who she was. After Yunqi explained, the fairy was happy to be of help. The princess then asked the fairy to help her find some fantasy ghost orchids. But the fairy stated that these flowers were magical and only bloomed once every 1,000 years. Also, they only grew on Tao Cliff and were protected by the Buzi demon all year round, so normal people couldn't get near them. Regardless, the fairy then gave Yunqi a crowd of Jizi orchids, saying it was more suitable for a princess. These ones only bloomed every 300 years. When she returned, Prince Yuming asked what took her so long, so she replied that she was simply following orders, and he would find out shortly. In the Great Hall, a servant began reading out all the gifts presented to Lan Shuang by Lord Situ and the Crown Prince. Lan Shuang admitted they were precious, but also felt the gifts were kind of vulgar. However, all these gifts were actually to curry favor with His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor, due to the sensitive relationship with the West. Lan Shuang continued receiving priceless gifts and jewels from her siblings, but she was most interested in what Yu Ming would give her. His gift was a luminous pearl with 9 colors, symbolizing wishes to the nation's pearl, Princess Lan Shuang's eternal happiness. Acquiring such a treasure was a feat in itself. She was overjoyed with the gift, thinking Yu Ming truly loved her the most, and he earned praise from his father. Bei Tong's gift came next, which was a brightly colored glazed glass chalice. This was basically the most prized treasure of the Western tribe. Ocean then told Lord Situ that Bei Tong was also here in hopes of putting aside their differences and restoring relations. However, Yu Ming would interrupt, telling his father to begin the banquet. Yunqi's mother then interrupted, calling Yunqi rude for not presenting a gift to the princess. But Yunqi smirked, letting her know that she in fact had a gift right here to give to Princess Lan Shuang. Before the birthday celebration, Ocean had a secret meeting with Bei Tong. He planned to use the trade between their nations as an excuse to persuade the emperor to open up towns near the borders. If this scheme worked, he and Bei Tong would coordinate from both outside and inside these towns when the time came. Bei Tong feared if they moved too hastily, Yu Ming and his faction wouldn't let them have their way easily. But Ocean told him that the Empress Dowager always disliked Yu Ming, and if an argument ensued, she would take their side. Back at the ceremony, she told her mother that Princess Lan Shuang wouldn't even be able to guess her gift. But the princess didn't really care. Yunqi's mother reprimanded her for spouting nonsense, claiming there was no treasure Lan Shuang hadn't seen before. Ocean then told them to stop their argument. The emperor was curious to see Yunqi's gift, asking her to present it quickly. She would present the garland, but her father reprimanded her and called it a pathetic gift. Prince Yi defended Yunqi, calling her gift a sincere one, and called her parents out for disrupting the occasion with their fracas, making him wonder who was the discourteous one here. Ocean warned Yu Ming to be more careful with his speech and behavior, saying he had disregarded the rules of etiquette and morals, and questioned if his behavior was appropriate. Yu Ming's grandmother also reprimanded him as well. Although Zemo tried to stand up for his brother, she quickly shut him down. Then, Lan Shuang spoke up for her brothers, insisting that she really loved the garland. Her grandmother would quickly become amazed when she realized the flowers were Jizi orchids. They were extremely difficult to grow. They were delicate flowers. Furthermore, only a truly refined person earned the right to nurture these flowers that bloomed every 300 years. Suddenly, a flutter of butterflies swarmed the area, being attracted to the scent of the Jizi orchid. The Empress Dowager had yearned for this flower ever since she saw its picture in a book many years ago. At that time, her husband was given a plant by a hermit. After careful nurturing, buds appeared. But despite this, she had still never had the chance to see it in full bloom. The Empress was glad to see that this gift suited her granddaughter perfectly. The Emperor then thanked Yunqi for her gift. Yu Ming asked Yunqi where she acquired them, but she responded with ambivalence, promising it was by legal means. As everyone's spirits were lifted and joyful, the Emperor commenced the start of the banquet. While the party went on, the Emperor asked Bei Tong how he was enjoying the food of the Central Plains. Bei Tong admitted it had broadened his horizons, but felt the lychees could be fresher if they had faster horses transport them. Ocean would then suggest that both nations take what they need from each other and create trading posts at the border. This would not only grow their economy, but also increase their GDP. Xiaopo would interrupt, reminding His Imperial Majesty that the borders were important military sites, begged him to think twice about opening trading posts. Ocean then countered that such isolation policies were not long-term solutions. Then, he questioned Po's faith in defending their people and nation. The emperor would invite Beitong to the imperial palace after the banquet to discuss this in detail. However, Yu Ming would claim the stallions he had trained were more than a match for those in the west. He would challenge Beitong to a race to find out who bred the best horses in the world. Ocean advised Beitong not to be impulsive, but the Western tribe lord would still accept the challenge. Surprisingly, Yu Ming said Beitong wouldn't be racing against him, but against Yun Shi instead. Everyone was stunned by this. Still, the prince insisted that his horses could still beat Beitong's, even without a skilled rider. The emperor then agreed to judge the contest today. Meanwhile, Yun Shi was freaking out. When Juliet was brought, Yun Shi happily ran to her. Prince Yi recalled Po telling him that his horse acted like a charmed rabbit in Yun Shi's presence. Beitong was amazed when seeing Juliet. Ocean hadn't told him the prince had a red dragon foal. Compared to his 1,000-mile snow hoof, it was hard to say which would win. Beitong claimed this would still be a good opportunity for them, as Yu Ming wasn't the only one who came well prepared. He signaled to a mysterious man in a hood, who casted dark magic, causing the skies to become clouded and rain to fall. Ocean used this chance to ask the emperor to come to his house, so they could talk about the trading posts. But Lan Shuang didn't want her father to leave, and her brothers supported her. She'd spent more than a month preparing this banquet, so she didn't want it to end like this. She then mentioned that this was a mere drizzle, and that there were many solutions to this problem. She would ask some servants to bring some red silk and roller blinds. Everyone was curious to what she was planning, including Prince Yu Ming, but she wouldn't say. When the servants returned, Yunqi felt something was still missing. Yu Ming then told the servants to go fetch some pebbles around the corner of the hallway, making Yunqi wonder if he already knew what she was planning. She thought he was annoying. After wrapping a pebble in the silk, Yunqi tied it around one of the pillars. Then, she leapt through the pillars, tying the silk all around. Everyone stared at her in amazement. Her acrobatics were quite the spectacle. When she ran out of silk, that's when Yu Ming climbed up to one of the pillars and tossed more silk her way. Together, they'd move gracefully under the rain to form a cover for the banquet venue. Yunqi thanked the prince for his help, admitting that he could be kind-hearted at times. With this, the banquet could continue. Yu Ming was flush, seeing Yunqi's cute expression. You guys notice, despite getting drenched in the rain, both their hair seemed to perfectly retain shape? Beitong would bow to Yunqi, surprised to see that she knew martial arts. She certainly wasn't some spoiled, pampered lady. She would recognize him as the pervert at her father's feast. Before she could say more, Yu Ming carried her away. She was feeling embarrassed because people were looking at them. She demanded to be put down. Regardless, the prince brought her to a bedroom, which made her question what he was about to do to her. She held onto the door, refusing to go in, but Yu Ming was able to drag her. He dropped her down, then asked her to change her clothes, letting her know that no one else was allowed to see her wet, except him. As he left, he told the servants to help his princess clean and change before returning her to the banquet. The emperor admitted the view at the banquet was now more elegant. When Yunqi returned, Yu Ming noticed Beitong was staring at her. After she greeted the emperor, he offered to reward her for aiding his daughter, Lan Shuang, and asked if there was anything she desired. But Yunqi didn't want anything. Rather, she was happy that she could help keep the banquet going. Regardless, the emperor still kept this offer on the table. After the banquet, Ocean told Yunqi that Auntie Shui had been found, but if he wanted her returned unharmed, she had to keep her promise to him to stop being reckless and causing trouble. After he left, Lan Shuang brought a gift for her to show gratitude for the precious Jeezy orchid garland. Lan Shuang liked it very much. And it was also because of Yunqi's amazing idea that her birthday could continue. Yunqi accepted the gift and promised to cherish it. Leaving Yu Ming, they'd come across Qingwan. She thanked Yunqi and revealed she was the lady who had her purse stolen from before. The purse contained a jade pendant, which was a memento from Qingwan's deceased father. Yunqi noticed a dark aura emanating from the pendant, and she suspected it might be possessed by a demon. Seeing that Qingwan had chronic illness, she concluded the demon had already done great damage to her body. Yunqi offered to check her pulse, but Yu Ming stopped her because he didn't know anything about her practicing medicine. She retorted that just because he didn't know, didn't mean she couldn't. She did have a way to treat Qingwan's illness. Examining the jade pendant, Yunqi realized if she tried to exorcise the demon, it could damage it. So, she chose to temporarily suppress it instead. She asked Qingwan to put on a string of Bodhi seed beats, when she got home, and to also try to relax more. On their way back to the palace, Yuming assumed Yunqi was plotting something. He told her that her father corrupted, persecuted, and harmed people, and it was because of him that Qingwan's father died on the battlefield without support. The prince decided he would spare Yunqi's life, provided she remained in the palace and stayed away from Qingwan. But Yunqi refused, saying she couldn't stay away from her patient. She wasn't her father, and since she was sure that she could cure Qingwan's illness, she couldn't just leave her like that. She and Yu Ming didn't meet before marriage, and barely knew each other. Yet, she felt he always tensed up when she did anything and interpreted her good intentions negatively. At the Yi princely palace, he asked the guards to take her to Serenity Pavilion and told them she wasn't allowed to set foot outside the palace without his permission. That night, she complained to Chair about the prince's behavior, but her maid was just glad to see she was alright. Opening Lan Shuang's gift, she was excited to see it was a whip. Yuming somehow found himself at the Serenity Pavilion. Peeking inside, he was amazed to see Yunqi dancing gracefully with the whip. As he was leaving, Chair asked Yunqi if him taking her to Lan Shuang meant he cared about her. But Yunqi didn't care about that at all. Whenever she saw him, she felt a burning rage inside her. She wished she could steam him like a turtle? Yunqi was okay with keeping a distance from the prince, though Chair wondered if Yunqi could keep staying away from her husband. Yuming also wanted to know if she could truly keep a distance from him, and wondered why he had eavesdropped on them in the first place. The following morning, a servant told Yunqi that the prince had ordered her to come to the Hall of Esteemed Virtue. This was Yu Ming's residence. Mochi advised Yunqi to go because she couldn't hide from the prince forever. She could use this chance to find out if the prince had the thing that was making him weak as well. Upon reaching there, the servant told Yunqi that the prince wanted her to be responsible for all the day-to-day running of his residence. Firstly, she was asked to fill a tank with water. Yunqi asked if the palace was short of workers, but the servant wasn't in a position to question the prince's orders and had no idea. Yunqi wanted to confront Yu Ming to ask exactly what his intentions were. Chair advised her not to do it, fearing it would only anger the prince. She offered to handle these tasks instead, since she was used to them, but Yunqi decided to look for a better solution. While Chu was having tea with her fellow concubine sisters, they asked her if the prince had come to see her lately, but the prince had only sent someone to greet her, since he was so busy with work. They were so envious of her, so Chu promised to relay their lovesickness to the prince when they next met. She personally had no plans of growing old and dying alone in this palace. Her servant brought some news for her. Then, she told the others that an entertaining spectacle was awaiting them. If they followed her, they would find out. Yunqi, meanwhile, had carved up some bamboo and used it to make a small funnel for filling the water tank. Chu and her sisters would come to mock her, and Chu offered to plead her case to the prince to get her out of this. However, Yunqi only remembered Chu as the lady who was always getting slapped and bruised easily. So, she told Chu that the prince was cruel and advised her to stay away in order to not get slapped again. Chu and the other concubines saw the chopped down bamboo that had only been purchased recently. Yunqi explained why she had done it, and Chu would reprimand her, saying she needed her permission to touch anything in this palace. Chu claimed the prince allowed her to oversee everything, so even trees and grass were her responsibility. When Yu Ming showed up, she ran to him, crying and asking him to administer justice, because Yunqi had cut down the precious bamboo she had placed. To her surprise, the prince did actually decide Yunqi should manage his palace, and was looking forward to seeing how she would do. However, Yunqi refused. Just because she said he had terrible taste didn't mean she wanted to manage this place. It was hard work and a pain in the butt. She wasn't even remotely interested. So, Yu Ming allowed Chu to continue managing it, but stated that Yunqi would serve him in the Hall of Esteemed Virtue. He insisted it was her duty as his princess to serve him, and threatened to discipline her if she refused his orders. As Yunqi left, Chu was boiling with rage, and swore to never forgive Yunqi. While dressing his hair, Yunqi wondered why the prince suddenly wanted her to serve him. When she was done, he asked her to sweep the courtyard before leaving. Yunqi tried saying that wasn't the deal, but the prince claimed there was no deal, and she must only do what he said. If Yunqi knew Chair would have been roped into this, she would have pulled out some of Yu Ming's hair. As the fairy dropped some leaves on them, Yunqi noticed there was no wind, and the petioles were still fresh. She knew someone must be behind this. Turning around, the fairy was surprised she could see him. She told him to take back his leaves, but he refused. Suddenly, the flower fairy Yunqi had met earlier hit him and went down to see Yunqi. Yunqi had been wanting to thank her for her help last time, and although Chair couldn't see them, she introduced herself as well. Seeing that Yunqi had to sweep the courtyard, the female fairy offered to help. But the male fairy quickly said he'd do it, and then introduced himself as Mu Qing. He was a tree fairy, and in a flash, he tidied up the place. After that, Yunqi started playing on a swing. The tree she was using suddenly started glowing. Seeing this, Yunqi used his magic to make the leaves bloom, and the spirit of the ginkgo tree then showed himself, telling Yunqi he had been asleep for many years. Before he could say the reason, he fell asleep again. Since he had just woken up from the seal, it would take a while for him to recover. But at least his tree would make the palace livelier. Some maids passing by found it odd that the once dead ginkgo tree had suddenly sprouted leaves. It was said that no grass would grow around this tree. At night, Yuming received word that 3 months ago, another daughter appeared in the house of Grand Counselor. She was raised on Spirit Cloud Mountain because she was considered a jinx since childhood. The prince realized the house of Grand Counselor had deceived the emperor by sending Yunqi, and their entire house could be beheaded for this. To be sure, he asked his spy to check again. At the same time, Chu received word about the ginkgo tree that had suddenly come back to life. Chu Zu also told her the chief Taoist was out of town and would be back in a few days. This time, Chu swore to make Yunqi show that she was a witch. Yunqi started searching all over the prince's room for the ring Mochi had been telling her about. While checking under the sheets, Yiming showed up behind her. She tried to push him away, but couldn't. He would tease, asking why, if she was so interested in his bed, was she pushing him away. As she tried leaving, Yiming stopped her, asking what she was searching for. But Yunqi claimed she was only tidying up. So he told her to keep the room tidy from now on, and that she was the best person for this task. She tried to smack him, but he'd catch her wrist. He was glad she was so excited in the mornings. After that, they went to have breakfast together. Seeing how excited Yunqi was, the prince told her it was just ordinary food. But she claimed delicious food was like an elixir, and he teased that she would gain weight. But she'd basically reply, "Nuh-uh, you're gaining weight. Everyone in your palace is." Yuming didn't understand why, but he found her charming. She asked why he was smiling, and he answered this was the first time she hadn't disagreed with him, so he was taken aback. Then he started feeding her. After breakfast, when she cleaned Yuming's office while he was reading, she still hadn't seen any sign of the ring, so she decided to check if he had it on him. As she stepped out, he couldn't help but wonder what she was up to. Yunqi returned, bringing some tea for him. With his hands out, she noticed he wasn't wearing any rings. The princess would stumble on her dress, causing tea to spill all over Yuming. While cleaning him up, she then searched his clothes for the ring, but still came up with nothing, and concluded he wasn't the one Mochi was after. She quickly decided to take her leave, but Yuming was furious as she tried to leave after fooling around. He held her hands, pulled her close, and kissed her. Even with Yunqi struggling, he didn't let go, until he noticed she was crying. He held her warmly, trying to console her, but she would punch him in the gut and run away. Yunqi ran back to her room, telling Chaeher she was just exhausted and needed to rest. She was flush and couldn't understand why her heart was racing. Then, Yunqi told Mochi that the prince didn't have any ring on him. The following day, Yuming was informed that Yunqi wasn't feeling well, which is why she hadn't come to attend to him. She didn't wish to see a doctor and insisted on having a few rest days. However, Yuming asked the maid to give Yunqi the health tonic and snacks the emperor had sent as a gift. In the Serenity Pavilion, Yunqi told Chaeher she usually went hunting for treasure on rainy days at Spirit Cloud Mountain. She then suggested they go hunt for some treasure, and Sesame was eager to tag along. While searching, Yunqi found some wood ear fungus and threw some down to Chaeher. When her maid tried to pick them up, she was shocked to see the prince standing before her. Yunqi noticed Sesame had suddenly passed out, so she turned and saw Yuming. She'd slip off the branch, and that's when the prince would swoop in to catch her. With his face so close, Yunqi was flustered and pushed him away. In her room, he wanted her to dry him off, but she refused. She told him she was ill, but felt a bit better, which was why she went to pick some wood ear fungus. But since she said she was better, Yuming reasoned that she could continue serving him. The continued serving would be ridiculous, with Yunqi grabbing a stick and trying to dry him off from a distance. And the prince, of course, wanted her to use her hands, and wondered why she found him so repulsive. Yunqi would admit she was annoyed by the way he enjoyed tormenting her. Getting furious, Yuming pinned her to the wall, reminding her that she married him and became his princess. It didn't matter whether she liked him or not. Yunqi tried to explain that she didn't have a choice, but Yuming would force a kiss. Yunqi gasped as Yuming looked her straight in the eyes, telling her that's what she gets for irritating him. Then he kissed her again. She punched him to break free asking him why he was doing this to her. She didn't understand why he kept messing with her. Why get close to her now when they were happy living in their separate bubbles? She wanted them to maintain their distance and begged him to stop bothering her. In response, the prince punched the wall beside her and told her that was just wishful thinking. As he left, images of Yunqi flashed in his mind, making him angrier. Then, his spy returned, informing him of her true identity. Yunsheng was Ocean's second daughter, who was originally arranged to marry him. However, the woman who became his princess was Yunqi, a jinx since childhood, raised on Spirit Cloud Mountain. Zemo came looking for Yunqi when she was preparing food with Cheer, and as soon as he saw her, he dived, trying to get a hug. Yunqi would have to hit him, so he calmed down. He then joined them for their meal, but didn't expect the wood ear fungus to smell so bad. Zemo asked why Yunqi was staying in this haunted place, but she claimed to like it here. Still, he felt it was unfair for a princess to be residing in a place like this. When Yuming showed up, his brother yelled at him for making the princess stay here, but Yuming mentioned that he was yet to realize that Yunqi was his sister-in-law, and said whatever happened between them was none of his business. Yuming's words pierced through Zemo like a blade. When Prince Yi approached her, Yunqi slowly tried slipping away, but was startled when he called her by her real name. Yunqi thought she had misheard him, but the prince revealed that he knew she was Ocean's first daughter, who was considered a jinx and abandoned at a young age. She tried to deny it, but Yuming told her he had evidence. She figured he didn't plan to expose her, since he came here on purpose to tell her, and she was right. The prince requested she come to his residence every day and serve him willingly, come rain or shine. Yunqi was furious, but Mochi didn't get why she was so angry, because if someone told him to serve them, he'd smash everything in their house. And upon hearing this, the princess got an idea. At the Hall of Esteemed Virtue, Yunqi was told to clean the prince's collection of vases, but she'd end up breaking them instead. She was hoping this would dissuade Yuming from wanting her to serve him, but he said it was alright since he could simply buy more. Yunqi wouldn't stop there though. She'd drop his new clothes into the river, tear up his books, and mess up his favorite bonsai. Still, the prince wasn't bothered. So far as Yunqi was alright, he asked her to keep serving him. After that, she proceeded to set the kitchen on fire. When it was reported to the prince, he checked to make sure his princess was fine, and decided to simply build a new kitchen. Yunqi didn't understand why he wasn't the least bit angry, but Yuming had decided to let Yunqi have her destructive fun, because he could already see through her tricks. Back in her father's house, Yunqi would always get punished for destroying things on accident, and it made her wonder why nothing was happening here in the palace. She needed to figure out a way to make Yuming rethink getting her to serve him. As she thought about breaking something more valuable, the prince approached her, presenting even more valuable items he had bought. He gave her permission to use them to continue her entertainment. Since he was handsome and rich, he didn't mind wasting money on her. Yunqi would tell him not to worry, and on her way out, he stopped her, telling her to have dinner with him first. Then prepare his ink since he'd be working late. Her frown turned to a big smile in front of all the delicious food. Yuming, on the other hand, enjoyed watching her eat. He'd come close to her face and slowly wipe off a grain of rice, leaving Yunqi flushed. After she prepared his ink, the prince asked her to sit quietly instead of leaving. She tried to stay awake using the most ridiculous methods, but when she fell asleep, the prince carried Yunqi to the room and tucked her in. He'd admire her face for some time, and when he tried to leave, she'd suddenly grab his hand. The prince tried breaking free, but he'd end up getting dragged into bed with her. He'd hear her tell Sesame and Mochi to be quiet in her sleep, and he couldn't believe she even eats in her dreams. He thought of her as such a gluttonous woman. By morning, Yunqi woke up, startled to see Yuming next to her. He felt a sharp pain in his hands as he tried to get up. Then, Yunqi used this chance to run away from the room. Outside, she noticed the presence of a demon and threatened to deal with it if it didn't leave. The demon threw stones at her from behind, but the prince showed up just in time to save her. However, he couldn't see the demon. The princess told him to get away because he was only holding her back. But Yuming would protect her once more, sustaining an injury on his back. He was protecting her because she was his princess. The demon's next attack was blocked by Yunqi, who put up a spirit shield, dispersing the demon's attack. But she didn't expect it to take aim at the prince next. As she used her body to shield him, the prince would see a vision of her sweetly jumping into his arms, and the jade ring Yunqi had been searching for suddenly appeared on his finger. With the power of the ring, the prince could see the demon, but it immediately vanished. He was also confused as to where the ring suddenly came from, but became weakened because the demon's attack was still affecting his body. Mochi sensed something In her room, Yunshi cut open the prince's clothes to dress his wound, but he wasn't bleeding. There was only a stick with dark aura poking out of his chest. As she attempted to touch it, the ginkgo spirit would stop her, and then use his powers to remove the demonic stick. With the spot now being a regular wound, he gave Yunshi an ointment that could be used to treat it. After the princess dressed the wounds, she told Mochi that she saw the jade ring, but it disappeared as the demon vanished. Ginkgo then explained that the ring only appeared whenever Yuming was in danger, then became invisible once the danger was gone. When the prince woke up, Yunshi gave him some water and apologized for him getting hurt because of her. Seeing that was the only reason she was concerned, he felt a bit sad that he hadn't gotten through to her yet. Then, the prince acknowledged he could see the spirits in this room. This was his first time, and he noticed them ever since the jade ring appeared. She was shocked that he wasn't scared of them, then introduced the spirits, while explaining she was sent to Spirit Cloud Mountain because of her ability to see them. The princess then noticed Mochi and Sesame were no longer weak around Yuming. Ginkgo explained it was because the demon realm crystal on the ring, which created a barrier to prevent demons and spirits from approaching, had been destroyed. Yuming asked who placed the protective barrier on him, but Yuming didn't know. Regardless, she promised to protect him from now on. She'd feed him, tend to his wounds, and help him dress up after a bath. Even after Yuming's wound had healed, Yunshi still fed him while he worked. As he caressed her face, she turned red. At night, when she tucked him in bed, the prince held her hand and suddenly dragged her into the bed as well. She accepted it, feeling she was the reason he got hurt in the first place. By morning, she woke up to the prince staring at her. She blushed hard and then asked him to let go of her hand, but he held on tightly. She tried to pinch him, but noticed his skin was even smoother than a woman's. Yuming asked her to lie quietly beside him, stirring up her anger even more. She threatened to hurt him even though he was injured. However, the prince told her to do as she pleased, and in that sweet moment, they were about to kiss, until a knock on the door interrupted them. Feeling flustered, she fell out of bed, causing Yuming to laugh at her. Outside, Surong tried to tell Chu that the prince didn't wish to be disturbed. Regardless, Chu shoved her out of the way. Yunshi would open the door and was shocked to see her. As Chu forced her way in, approaching the prince, he reprimanded her for daring to offend his princess in front of him. He ordered her to get out, letting her know that Yunshi was enough to take care of him. Later, Chu assumed Yunshi was using witchcraft on the prince, so she felt the need to bring Yuming back to his senses. Chozu agreed with her and had even heard rumors of the same thing. Since the chief Taoist, Meihai, had returned, Chu demanded he be invited to the palace immediately, regardless of the expense. She also told Chozu to let the other concubines know so they could come and make a scene. As Chu left with her fellow concubines, she complained to a servant about the chief Taoist not being here yet, and just as she said that, Meihai appeared before them, apologizing for his tardiness. Arriving at the Serenity Pavilion, Chu ordered her maids to grab Che-er. Meihai then began a ritual, and sensed there was a presence of great evil here, Chu would ask him to begin the exorcism. Che-er tried to explain there were no evil spirits here, and begged Chu to have mercy. But Chu then ordered Chozu to slap her. Sesame saw what was happening and began beating up the maids to free Che-er. He'd take on the form of a big dust cloud to scare them away, but Meihai used his powers to disperse it. He threatened Sesame to leave, or else he'd perish here. Enraged, the little spirit shot a fireball at the chief Taoist. Meihai then summoned a spirit that blocked the attack and smashed Sesame to the ground. While the spirits fought, Meihai continued to set up a barrier. Returning to the pavilion, Yunshi was shocked to see Chu and the other concubines. Chu explained to her that she had brought the chief Taoist to exorcise the evil spirits here. But the only evil spirit the princess saw was her, so she told all of them to themselves and leave. She rushed to help Sesame when she saw him injured on the ground. Then, she knocked away the maids who were holding down Che-er. Furious, Yunshi slapped Chu hard, reminding her that she was merely a concubine. Meanwhile, Meihai's barrier caused the ginkgo tree to wither again. Yunshi threw a talisman against Meihai's own and broke his spell. Next, she instantly defeated the spirit he had summoned to help him fight. Seeing the chief Taoist was protecting himself with a barrier, she cast her own spell to bring it down. Acknowledging her skills, Meihai offered to take her as an apprentice, but she replied she already had a master. Regardless, he tied her up, trying to force her to come. That's when Yuming showed up, holding a blade to Meihai's neck, threatening that if any other man other than him came near his princess, they would die. The prince attacked Meihai, breaking the barrier with his sword, but before he could land the next strike, the chief Taoist vanished under a smoke cloud. After that, Chu tried to explain she wanted to exorcise the evil spirits from the Serenity Pavilion. However, Yuming pointed his blade at her, ordering them to get out, and threatening to kill them if they ever came here again. Yunchi then asked Ginkgo to help heal Chair and Sesame, and it seems like Sesame needed some more time to recover. With Mochi showing up late to the party, the princess scolded him for being away when Sesame almost died. Yuming would then carry her to the room and toss her on the bed. He was upset that the Taoist would have taken her away if he had arrived any later. He promised to protect her and never let anything happen like this again. She was his princess, so only he may bask in her beauty. All other men were off limits. The next morning, the princess was woken up by the prince, who was doing some work redecorating the pavilion. When she came out, he told her that he would be living here from now on. She wasn't expecting that. Elsewhere, the demon who attacked them earlier informed his master that he had found the whereabouts of the ring. And that's where I'm ending for now. This show does have a season 2, but I didn't feel like covering this time because they took the 3D route. I'd consider covering it if there's enough interest, but overall, this show is kind of a light-hearted, unserious rom-com. I'm not the biggest fan of directionless narratives, and if you didn't notice, Chinese names are pretty hard for me. But what do you guys think about this series? Subscribe for more content, but for now, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.